Good day everyone, I am Jester Romagos, a BSed English student together with this equally beautiful and intelligent groupmates. Are you willing to learn how to achieve effective conversational communication? Join us as we explore the world of cooperative principles. Cooperative principle is divided into four areas, which are the key takeaway by gracious conversational maxims to be reported by Mr. Angelo Miparanong. Second, observations in the cooperative principle to be discussed by Miss Geraldine Orsinado. Number 3, cooperation versus agreeableness to be tackled by Miss Aurnie Villanueva. Lastly, number 4, the lighter side of the cooperative principle to be discussed by Mr. Rajan Soyosa. This time, please allow me to present to you the objectives of this lesson. Letter A describes how people achieve effective conversational communication in a common social situations. Letter B, make a conversational contribution with accepted purpose or direct of the talk of exchange. And lastly, letter C, construct a concrete real-life examples of the Grecian maxims of conversation. Before we discuss the four areas of the cooperative principle, let's discuss first what is cooperative principle. Cooperative principle is developed and proposed by the philosopher Paul Grice. Cooperative can be understood as an essential factor when speakers and listeners are interacting. In other words, it is the expectation that the listener has towards the speaker. The speaker is supposed to convey the true statements and say nothing more than what is required. When people talk to each other, they try to converse smoothly and successfully. Cooperation is the basis of the successful conversations.
Hello everyone, I am Angelo Miparanong and I am going to discuss the Grice 4 conversational maxims. So, let's start. When you write or talk, you generally do so with the purpose of conveying information. And the better you are at conveying information, the more likely people are to understand and accept what you have to say. However, despite the importance of being able to communicate effectively, and despite the frequency in which we attempt to do so, we often make mistakes when we try to convey information to others. Some of these mistakes are relatively minor and only make our communication slightly less effective than it could be, while other mistakes are relatively major and lead to serious misunderstandings. Fortunately, there are some principles known as Grice maxims of conversation that you can use, which will help you avoid these mistakes in communication.
There are 4 main maxims which revolve around the quantity, quality, and relevance of what people say, as well as on the manner in which they say it. While these maxims were originally meant to describe how people intuitively communicate, they can be used to actively guide the way you communicate in various situations. As such, in this video, you will learn about the maxims of conversation and see what you can do in order to implement them in practice, so you can make your conversation or communication as effective as possible. So first maxim is the maxim of quantity, or be informative. So there are 2 maxims of quantity. First is make your own contribution as informative as is required. Provide all the information which is necessary for the purpose of the current exchange. Don't leave out anything important. Second, do not make your contribution more informative than is required. Leave out any unnecessary details that aren't important to the current exchange.
Now, let's take a look at this example.
So based on the example here, if someone asks you, your expected answer should contain enough information for them to understand how to get to the library, but no more information than that. Second maxim is the maxims of quality, or be truthful. There is one super maxim of quality, which is try to make your contribution one that is true. Furthermore, based on this super maxim, there are two more specific maxims of quality. First, do not say what you believe to be false. Avoid stating information that you believe might be wrong, unless there is some compelling reason to do so. If you do choose to include it, then provide a disclaimer that points your doubts regarding this information. Second, do not say for which you lack evidence. Avoid including information that you can back up with supporting evidence. If you do choose to include such information for some reason, provide a disclaimer that points out your doubts.
Hey, do you know where's the nearest supermarket here?
I think there's one around in the corner, but I'm not sure. So in this example, person 2 is truthful. So we do feel a general obligation to tell the truth, and if we're uncertain, we indicate that this is the case. Third is maxim of relation, or be relevant. There is one maxim of relation, which is be relevant. Make sure that all the information you provide is relevant to the current exchange. Omit irrelevant information. In this example, the woman contributes what is relevant to the purpose of the conversation. So the conversation is according to relevance. Last maxim is the maxims of manner, or be clear. There are various additional maxims of manner that are based on this super maxim. Grice lists 4 specific ones in his original work. First, avoid obscurity of expression. Avoid language which is difficult to understand, such as because it contains words that the listener doesn't know. Second, avoid ambiguity. Avoid ambiguous language which can be interpreted in multiple ways, and which therefore makes it difficult for your recipient to understand which or what exactly you're trying to say. Third, be brief. Provide information in a concise manner that allows your recipient to focus on the key details. Last is be orderly. Provide information in an order that makes sense and makes it easy for your recipient to process it. So here's the example for the maxim of manner. Take note, unlike the previous maxims, which have to do primarily with what is said, the maxims of manner have to do with how it is.
So that's the 4 conversational maxims of cooperative principles. So stay tuned for the next presenter.
Good day, everyone! I am Miss Geraldine Orsinado, and the assigned subtopic that I will going to discuss this day is about the observations on the cooperative principles. So, let's begin! Okay, so here are some thoughts on the cooperative principle from some acknowledged sources on the subject. So first, it is from the Logic and Conversation by H. Paul Gries. We might then formulate a rough general principle which participants will be expected, ceteris paribus, to observe, namely. Okay, so if we say ceteris paribus, it is a Latin phrase that generally means all other things being equal. So make your conversational contribution such as is required at the stage at which it occurs by the accepted purpose or direction of the talk exchange in which you are engaged. One might label this the cooperative principle. Okay, so there are 4 categories of cooperative principle. So first is the quantity. Second is the quality. The next is the relation. And next is the manner. Okay, so which is being discussed on the previous discussion. And based upon on the Logic and Conversation by H. Paul Grease, in his observation, there are of course all sorts of other maxims. Those are aesthetic, social, or moral in character, such as be polite, that are also normally observed by the participants in talk exchanges, and this may also generate non-conventional implicatures. The conversational maxims, however, and the conversational implicatures are especially connected with the particular purposes that talk exchange is adapted to serve and is primarily employed to serve. Okay, so we are now on the second observation from the Communication and Reference by Aloysius Martinez. The sum and substance of the cooperative principle might be put this way. Do whatever is necessary to achieve the purpose of your talk. Don't do anything that will frustrate that purpose. So it means that the cooperative principle directs us to make our conversational contributions, such as are required by the accepted purpose of the conversation. More specifically, the speaker should adopt the style of his utterance to the conditions under which the conversation takes place, to the age, social standing, and intellectual level of his hearers, and so on, since by doing so he makes it more likely that the common purpose will be achieved. The third observation, it is from the Stuff of Thought by Steven Pinker. People undoubtedly can be tight-lipped, long-winded, mendacious, cavalier, obscure, ambiguous, verbose, rumbling, or off-topic. But a closer examination, they are far less so than they could be, given the possibilities, because human hearers can count on some degree of adherence to the maxims. They can read between the lines and without unintended ambiguities, and connect the dots when they listen and read. So that's the good conversation starts without any ambiguities unintended, and must connect the dots when they listen and read, because people they undoubtedly can be tight-lipped and long-winded, but in a closer examination, they are far less so than they could be. And given the possibilities that the human hearers can count on some degree of adherence of the maxims. Thank you for listening. I hope you've learned a lot. And for now, let's proceed to the next presenter.
Good day everyone, I am Aurani Villanueva. And now let's have the continuation of our report. Cooperation versus agreeableness. In the previous discussion, my co-reporter tackled about the graces of conversational maxims. Maxims tells and shows us how to communicate effectively. It describes how people communicate when they want to ensure that others understand them correctly. Istvan believes that cooperative principle isn't about positive or socially smooth or agreeable, but it is an idea that when someone speaks, they have the expectation as well as the intention of communicating while they are engaging in that communication. Cooperative principle keeps the conversation going, even if the individuals are aggressive, self-serving, and egotistic. That is why, even when people fight or disagree to the point that those engaged in the conversation are being less than pleasant or cooperative, they still continue their communication because cooperative principle maintains the flow of dialogue. Let's have an example. Jack Lopez telephone conversation.
Jack Lopez telephone conversation. The operator answered. I asked for a shoemaker and it got transferred, maybe elsewhere in the building or the country or the world, and after a bunch of clicks and hisses and some long minute of dead air, shoemaker came on the line and said, Yes,
This is Jack Lopez, I said.
where are you?
Don't you have all kinds of automatic machines to tell you that? In the conversation, Jack Lopez gave an indirect response to the showmaker, and that is our cue to make inferences and to search for the hidden or indirect meaning, because the surface of the literal meaning is not cooperative. In the maxim of conversation, it violates the maxim of relation, because maxim of relation should only include the information that is relevant to the current exchange. In exchanging the information, Jack Lopez gave an indirect response to the showmaker. Cooperative principle signals us not to trust the literal meaning but to look for the implied indirect meaning. Istvan noted that it is important to maintain the purpose or the main point of the communication because, as what I have said earlier, cooperative principle, according to Istvan, is not just about positive or socially smooth or agreeable, but it is an idea that when someone speaks, they have the desire to communicate as well as the expectation to do so.
Hello everyone. Allow me to introduce to you myself again. I am Rajan Libertino Suyosa, and this time I am going to elucidate to you
The lighter side of the cooperative principle.
As you can see, there is this so-called conversation here. And now, try to watch and observe these individuals who are having such interaction. I've been giving the matter some thought, and I think I'd be willing to be a house pet to a race of super intelligent aliens. Interesting. Ask me why. Do I have to? Of course. That's how you move a conversation forward. Now, I have a question for you. Is this conversation an example of cooperative principle or not? Well, for me, it is. If we are just going to focus on the second response of Leonard, of course, we can definitely say that there's sarcasm because his first response was a positive one, and also he even stated the word interesting. But we have to remember that cooperative principle is not about being positive or always achieving that perfect smooth communication. It's about how you try to reconnect with that person, remain cooperative, and keeping that connection, of course. What makes this conversation cooperative principle is how Sheldon handled the situation, how he tried to keep their conversation going by simply applying the Grice's conversational maxims. Now, we are going to talk about flouting of the maxims. Flouting of the maxims is to deliberately fail to observe a maxim in order to create an implicature. A cooperative speaker can intentionally disobey a maxim as long as he or she or the context provides enough indicators for the hearer to notice it.
The first one is flouting the maxim of quality. So we do have an example here. Teacher to a student who arrives late more than 10 minutes to the class meeting.
Wow, you are such a punctual fellow. Welcome to the class. Sorry, sir. It won't happen again.
So it is obvious that the teacher said that because he tried to tease the student and he's exploiting the maxim of quality and which is being truthful to be sarcastic. Next to that is flouting the maxim of quantity. Since we know that quantity refers to the exchange of required information, this example here can better help us understand flouting the maxim of quantity. The conversation started with Ali asking,
Where are you, Mahid? I'm in my clothes.
what happened here is that Ali tried flouting the maxim of quantity because the information is insufficient for him. Even if that's something that he doesn't really want to find out, he still knows that Mahid was just trying to give a response that is humorous. So flouting the maxim quantity can also be humorous. The third one is flouting the maxim of relevance.
What were you and Anna talking about? You were looking at me the whole time.
Oh, well, why don't we go get something to drink?
As you can observe, Mary is simply not answering Bob's question. He tried to talk about something else to avoid hurting Bob's feelings. And the last one is flouting the maxim of manner.
Darling, what's the story with that new watch on your wrist?
Oh, this what you're talking about? I knew it. I told my boss that my wife would be curious when she sees it. Oh, honey, you have no idea how much they're satisfied with my performance lately.
I feel like it would be better if the husband directly told his wife about the truth, that it was an award. However, he chose to flout the maxim of manner to make sure that his wife believes that the watch given to him is from a person that she also knew, and that is for him to also make sure that his wife will not get jealous.
Summary and conclusion. There are these set of observations that tell how people communicate when they wanted to relay a so-called message or be understood by their listeners or audiences. You can apply the Grice's conversational maxims to surely achieve that effective communication. And now we are going to mention them again. The first one is quantity, exchange of required informations. Next is quality, the speaker should always tell the truth. Third to the last one, manner, you should never be ambiguous. And the last one, relevance. Thank you so much everyone for listening to us. I believe that you've learned a lot. Let us going to apply all of our learnings as English majors and also for us to become effective speakers as well. Again, thank you so much for listening, and may God bless us all.